Well, howdy everybody, it's old Tucker back with you again. Blessed to see another day, I reckon. I was going to talk at you today about a subject I was talking to these grandboys about. I don't reckon they know just how tough we had it growing up. That's understandable. They've had it pretty good, I reckon. Pretty easy compared to us, but they don't hardly believe that one time we didn't even have running water in the house. It's just a way of life to me, but these fellers can't hardly comprehend it. But that's the way it was. Back before we had running water around here, fetching that water was a daily chore, and that required both patience and effort. And I can still remember that routine as clearly as if I had to do it today. Our family's water was this little old spring, and I reckon it's about a quarter of a mile from my house there, and there's a bunch of grove of trees around it. Early in the mornings, before the sun is fully up in the mountains, we'd grab our old buckets, them metal ones, and they clanged every step of the way down the hill. Well, we'd head toward that old spring with it, and sometimes, if we were lucky, we'd have a yoke to help carry the weight of the buckets on our shoulders, but more often than not, it was pure arm strength that got the job done. The sweat of our brow, I guess they say. That spring was always cool and clear. It flowed from the rocks at a steady trickle. Seemed like even in the hottest months of summer, we still had at least a little bit of water. And that water, I ain't had nothing like it since. That water was as fresh and crisp, and it was cold. It tasted like it'd been filtered straight out of the earth. And we'd kneel down beside the spring and dip our buckets in, slowly, trying to avoid stirring up any dirt. We'd let the water rush in. Once it got full, we'd have to get them old heavy buckets and begin to slowly walk back to the house, and we was as careful as we could be. We tried not to spill as much as a drop if we could help it, but that wasn't always possible. Actually, it wasn't ever possible. We always spilled a little bit, but despite our best efforts, that old water had a mind of its own when it got us squirting around in there. On especially hot days, that cool water felt pretty good when it hit your legs, though, I'll tell you that. The carrying water was more than just getting a drink or even getting ready to cook. We used it for everything. We washed our dishes and we washed our clothes. We bathed in it. So we had to make several trips a day with our family to keep up with the household chores. On worse days, when we washed the clothes, or when we was preparing to can in the summer, them trips seemed like it never ended. There's one right after the other, after the other, after the other. And the path down to that old spring was pretty tricky, especially in the bad weather. In the winter, the trail would get as icy as it could be, and you just about skate down there. And the climb back up was as slow going as it could be. You was trying to avoid slipping and spilling your water and ruining all that hard work you'd put in. And if it rained heavy, well, that dirt path would just turn into mud. We had to carefully watch our steps, just picking one at a time just to get through there and trying our best to stay upright and keep them buckets balanced. But I tell you, there was more than one time me and somebody else would fall. You go back down and start all over again. Just you had to have that water. It wasn't no maybe thing to it. Well, despite all our hard work, and it was hard work, it was also time for reflection. You'd have time to think while you was down there. You had a clear head back in, you had a clear mind. Sometimes we even had a little bit of fun with it. Our brothers and sisters would race to the spring, or we'd take turns telling stories to pass the time. There was kind of just second nature about it that over time it just kind of fell into what it was. So it just had to be done. You didn't really dread it or nothing else. You knew, hey, we need some water, and I'm gonna be the one to go get it. That's just how it was. And nobody complained, or we just grabbed them old buckets and headed over the hill. And looking back, it was rough, but we didn't know it at the time. It's just how we lived. And we sure did appreciate that water now. Now, there's times when you did fall and spill it, or something would go wrong, you get a little kindly sideways with it, but for the most part, it was just, you knew what needed to be done and you did it, and you didn't complain. That's a lesson a lot of people could learn these days, I reckon. I won't be the one to teach them, I don't guess, anymore, but somebody needs to. Nowadays, I just go in the kitchen like everybody else. I turn on the faucet and there, water just comes right out. I can't. Back in, you'd never imagine it as a possible thing. It was just when I first got that, it seemed like such a luxury. This is something you couldn't think of when you was a boy, but there's something about it, though, fetching it by hand that connected you to the land and even to the water itself. It just felt like it was the way it was supposed to be. So, and I do miss certain things about it, but no, I like my faucet too. But I tell you what, every drop of that water was precious because you earned it. So I'll tell you that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little tale about how we fetched water, and I sure appreciate you listening and your messages. Tyler tells me, reads them to me, and I just thank you kindly for your time and your attention. God bless you, and I'll talk at you next time.